Good day, it's Ron Brown with Tech for Seniors. Today I'd like to talk about creating an email signature. Now you remember the routine. If you like this video, please click the like, and if you want to support the channel, please subscribe. Now let's get on with the video. There are three goals of this presentation. The first is, should you have a signature? The second is how to make a signature. And the third, I want to show you a free program that will do it all for you. So for many years in my Gmail course, I've taught how to create a digital signature in Gmail. And in order to create a digital signature, you have to put personal information into the email. Now, for half of the students that I've taught, they don't want to put personal information into their signature. The other half do. So it is a personal decision you have to make when you're sending out your email, how much personal information you want to put into your signature block. But let's take a look at some examples that I have of some signature blocks you'll recognize. Well, guess whose signature block this is? This is mine. You'll see that I have some personal information here. I am a busy person. I spend a lot of time connecting with people, and I hope they connect back with me. So I want to give them lots of personal information to contact me. So this is a pretty liberal signature block I have, and it even has a little bit of advertising in it. Now let's look at another very busy person as well. It happens to be Bob G. Yes, he is a very busy person. He does a lot of security talks across the country, and in booking and receiving information, he needs to make sure you know what information you have available to contact him. So this is his signature block. Now let's look at another very busy person who I know quite well. Guess who this is? Well, his signature block is two words, Hewie Popluck. So maybe Hewie has decided that he doesn't want to share personal information with you. Not sure, maybe we can ask him that in the question and answer part. And the third is a very colorful person who does a lot of work on this show, Dewey. And I put this signature block in because Dewey has one word in his signature, but it's a written word. We'll talk a little bit about this later. Okay, let me show you how to make a signature block in Gmail. All right, let's see how to make a signature in Gmail. Here we are in my Gmail program. We're going to come up to the top right and see this little gear icon here. This is your settings icon. Let's click this, and this will bring up the first menu, but we want to go to See All Settings. So we're now going to click this, and it's loading all our settings, and you'll see that we now are in the general settings of Gmail. I want you to scroll down as you keep coming down, and now you'll see that this is where you can add signature. This is the area here, and you will be going over the signatures I have in a minute, but this is where you create a new signature. You can click this and you can create a new signature. I'll be going over this in the next few slides with you, but this is the area you go to create a signature block in Gmail. Now it will be a little bit different in Outlook and all the other email programs you have, but there will be a signature block feature in all email programs. All right, now I can tell you that to create a professional signature block, one that looks very good, is actually pretty difficult. And you're going to have to spend a lot of time trying to move information around and formatting your picture so you get it exactly as you want. And after many years of teaching this, it's just not as easy as you might think. It does require an HTML template, Now, what the heck is an HTML template? Well, this is where you actually put the computer code into that signature block rather than just putting information in that's generic to the email program that you're using. Now, there are many paid services to do this for you. They often want an upfront cost or a monthly subscription fee. Yes, there is not a lot of free stuff out there on the internet. Now, also, it must look good on all devices. It must look good on the laptop. It must be good on the desktop, and certainly good on the web. So it's got to look good in all the devices that are going to be looking at this. So how to do this? Let me show you how to do it. Now, the demonstration today is going to be on a free software program called Signature Hound. I discovered this last week, and it's pretty darn cool. And you go there by www.signaturehound.com. And when you get there, I want you to sign in or create an account. It's free. Hey, this is free. It's pretty good, too. Watch how we do this. Well, it always hasn't been free. The story goes back to Madison Giles. He's the founder, and I suppose the sole proprietor, of Signature Hound. He wrote this program, and there was a monthly subscription fee and an upfront fee to use it. However, Madison is now a firefighter. He left the computing business and is now a firefighter in Canberra. So he decided to make this site free. Yes, it is free. So when you sign up, there is no charge, and you can use this for free. All right, we have now logged into our Signature Hound site. The setup and login is pretty easy. On the screen ahead of me, you'll see I have an existing signature block called Santa Claus. If you want to create a new signature block, you just click the plus button here, and you'll create a new signature. But for speed today, I've already entered a bunch of data. So let's click on our Santa Claus signature. Now, what I'd like you to do is I want you to go over on the left side. This is super easy to use, but what I want you to do is I want you to go over and there's two parts here. You'll want to enter your personal info and your business info. We'll get to the design in a minute. So let's go to our personal info here. What we've done is I've added a picture, so you can add your picture that you want for your website or for your signature block. You can set the profile width. We've got a name, we've got the job title, we've got a department, email address, and you can put a bunch of phone numbers. And again, there really is no limit to this. So this is what I want you to put in first of all. If you have any further information you want, we can click the business info here. I've added another logo, so you can have two logos. We'll call it Claus Incorporated. And I've also added a website that we have. And here is, again, this is so difficult to do if you're trying to do it on your own. You'll look at all our social media links here. Now you can delete these links just by clicking the X, and you can take whatever you want. This was the Skype one at the end here. You can simply, by clicking this, you can either add it or remove it. However, so you can, if you don't have social media, but if you wanted to include your Facebook site, you could certainly add it, and then it would appear in these links. All right. Now, so once you get all your data put in that you want, your personal information and any further data that you want for business, then you can click the design. All right. And here comes up, and you can then come down here, and I'm not going to go through all these toggles, but you can certainly edit this as well through clicking these toggles, and you can change the font size, etc. And I'll let you play with this. But the big thing is to come up to the top now to templates. And here's where the beauty of this software is. This is the default template we have here, but I can change the template as we come along. You'll see the different types of templates that we can use. And all you have to do is click whichever one you like, and it will make the signature block for you. So you have your choice of, I think there's 8 different templates that you can use. Now, once you decide on, and again, you don't have to re-enter any personal information. It will adjust all this for you and format it for whatever email program you're using. Okay, so now we've decided this is the template we like. This is how it's going to look. We come up to the top right-hand corner here, and it says Install Signature. So we're going to click this, and now we're brought to the next menu where we have all the different email programs that you probably have. Now we use, and what we're going to be creating is a signature in the Gmail web software. So we're going to click this button, and it is going to we're simply going to copy the signature. I'm going to click this button here, and if you look down at the bottom, it says your signature has been copied to the clipboard. One of the things that you need to watch is when you click this copy, if you get a message up top here that says you are over the number of characters you've used too many characters, or your pictures are too big, and it won't let you copy and paste it into your Gmail program. So watch that. So if you're hitting the copy button here and it's not working, there will be a message at the top here, and you've got too much information for the signature block. All right, now we're going to come over, and this is your Gmail software, and this is the signature block. I've made a bunch of signatures here, but we're going to create a new one. We're going to call it Santa 2. We're going to create this, and I'm simply going to right click, and I'm going to paste this. All right, and this is going to paste it in, and this will have our information that we want. And I'll come down now, and we'll save changes, and we will have our Santa 2 signature block. So now when we come to compose a new email, we can come down to the right side here. We'll insert a signature. We will have Santa 2, and there is our information that we have just made. And this is how you can easily make a signature block. You'll see down at the bottom here with our signatures, we can choose any of these signatures that we want. I can choose, this is one that I just made for Tech for Seniors, and it's again all formatted for you that will work well in this signature block. Well, that's how you create a signature block in Gmail with Signature Hound.
Hewie Poplock. Today we're going to talk about my computer history. It may be a trip down memory lane for you, and it also may be a history lesson if you're not familiar with what I'm going to be talking about. My first computer was a Commodore PET, 8K of memory, no floppy disks, no hard disks. It just had a tape drive for storage. In order to do anything on the screen, you had to type in a basic program. Just to say hello or goodbye is what this would look like. I watched a 9-year-old kid play with one of these in the Olson Electronics store, and I said if he could do it, I could, because he was typing things in and things were happening on the screen. My second computer was a Radio Shack TRS-80. I opted for the level 2 with 16K of RAM. It was an expansion box for $849. Floppy disk drives were $500 a piece, so I did not get one of those. I used the tape drive again to use for storage and holding the programs. This is what it looked like, minus the expansion box. I also purchased one of the first dot matrix printers for under $1,000. I bought an Oki Data Microline 80 for $999. My third computer was an Osborne, $1,800. It came with 2 floppy disks. It had a 5-inch screen that weighed 28 pounds, and it had software packaged with it, which was something totally new. And here's what the Osborne looked like open, and here's the screen at a glance, what it looked like. Here's what the screen looked like, 183 characters across. I also purchased a 300 baud modem. That's what it looked. You could put a notch on the other side and actually turn the disc over and write on the back end if it had a double-sided Mylar disc within the 5 1/4. At the same time, IBM had the IBM 360 mainframes in big rooms, air-conditioned, all the wiring underneath a raised floor. The workstations were dumb terminals connected to the mainframe either by direct wiring, or if it was in a different building, a different city, you might rent telephone time to connect to the mainframe during certain periods. Apple came out with an Apple II, followed by the Lisa down on the bottom, and to the right was the first of the Macintosh family. Then came the IBM PC. I didn't buy an IBM PC. I opted to buy a clone from AT&T, and it was called a PC 6300. It did not have a hard drive in it. It had one floppy drive. I later bought a hard drive, a 40 megabyte hard drive. 40 megabytes. Holy cow, I am never going to have to buy another floppy disk, and I'll never fill it up. The software, and back in those days, there was a program called Symphony, which was a little bit of everything from the Lotus. The same people that had Lotus 123, a spreadsheet. Symphony had a spreadsheet and a word processor. It was a combination. It was like an office program. But programs in those days, like the computers, were expensive. Here is some computer pricing back in those days. An IBM PC with a 20 megabyte hard drive, monochrome monitor at $1,800, up to, if you wanted 40 megabytes of hard drive and you wanted a color monitor, you were able to get it at $3,695. But the software was extremely expensive too. Remember I mentioned Lotus 123, a spreadsheet, $399. DBase 2, almost $500. WordStar, $269. But WordStar didn't come with a spell checker. That was another $150. And if you wanted to use a mail merge, that was another $150. And if you wanted to do some indexing, if you were creating big documents and you needed indexing, another $150. So that software became very, very expensive. Moving ahead to 1987, even then, Symphony was still over $450. 123 was over $300. WordStar was $250. Programs were still expensive even in the late 80s. Just to look very quickly, different DOS versions. Remember, DOS was in the first IBM PCs and the first PC clones. However, it didn't become popular until the first computers, the XTs, came out in about 1983. And that was PC DOS 2. And we ran DOS until about 1995 with PC DOS and MS-DOS 6.2 and PC DOS 7.0. Then we went to Windows. 1985, Windows 1. On to the current Windows in 2015. It's been around for 6 years now. Here's the Windows version history, starting in 1985 and how it moved from Windows 1, 2, 3, NT, Windows for Workgroups, Windows 3.2, Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows ME, XP, XP Professional, Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, and then Windows 10. The Apple operating systems were first introduced in 1978, and they have progressed, and they still continue to update their operating systems. iOS for the iPad and iPhones have been around since 2010. And they haven't had a lot of versions, but when they do, they are major version updates. Androids, the first Androids were about 2008, 2009. And as they have progressed, they were first given names of desserts back in 2019. they decided to go just with the numbering, and so there's Android 10 and 11, and 12 will be coming soon. The Chrome OS was based on the Chrome browser, which came out in 2008, and as the browser has increased, the same version numbers are what are coming out with the Chrome OS. The most current is version 88. 89 is in beta, 90 and 91 are in very early stages of testing. Linux, there are tons of Linux distributions, or called distros. Just to show you, here's a huge list of all of the ones that are available. I'm not going to even go into all the different ones or what they are. It's just there's a lot of Linux operating systems available, and those are mostly free. Going back in time again, this is an article from 1984. Several hardware peripherals for the Macintosh were introduced. A 5 megabyte Omni drive priced at $1,700, $1,800. An 11 megabyte drive is priced at $2,500. And a 16 megabyte version will sell at $3,200. And a 45 megabyte for $5,000. That was in 1984. Another problem in those early days was the fact that if you owned one kind of computer, and even if you had the same software, you couldn't read the disks from other brands and other operating systems. And what happened was a company by the name from Micro Solutions called Uniform allowed the CP/M and DOS machines to actually work on each other's files. What you did is you put the Uniform in the disk and you ran the program, and it said, okay, what do you want to make that floppy look like? And you chose which one you wanted, and then what it did is it faked out the IBM PC and said, okay, what you have is a Kaypro, or you have an Osborne, and we're going to be able to read that data and then copy it over to the PC, and then you can stop using that software, and then we'll be able to read the file. Not only couldn't they read the files, they couldn't read the disks. And also back in those days, to download anything, it was slower. Remember, we talked about a 300 baud modem, 1962. If you wanted a 300 baud modem, it would take, and you wanted to download a 1 gigabyte file, it would take 323 plus days. In 1976, we were up to 1200 baud modems, and it would take 80 days for that same 1 gigabyte file. And if you look down today, if you have 20 megabits per second internet broadband, you're doing it in 7 minutes. And if you have 200 megabits per second, you're doing it in 42 seconds. Things certainly have improved. Thank you for joining. I hope you learned a little bit about my computer history and computer history in general. I'm Hewie Poplock. Measuring bandwidth. Bandwidth is measured by megabits and megabytes. And there's 8 bits to a byte. So you need to make sure that if you're measuring it and you're looking at what the bandwidth is, if it's a capital B, it's megabytes. If it's a small b, it's megabits. And you'll see the chart. It compares them. It's just 8 times or divided by 8. Depends on which way you're going. You have a 20 megabyte or 20 meg or megabits connection speed. Here's the conversion. 1 bit equals 0.125 or 1/8 of a byte. Thus, a 20 meg connection in reality is only 2.38 megabytes per second. Internet speed, the number they give you, 5 megabits per second, for example, Mbps, has nothing to do with how fast your internet works. It's not like your car or motorcycle where you can measure how fast it goes in miles per hour or mph. Instead, internet speed is your allocated bandwidth. Bandwidth is the amount of data that can be sent to you, usually measured in seconds. For example, 5 megabits per second would mean that you can receive up to 5 megabits of data per second. The best way to explain and understand how bandwidth and your internet speed works is by using an analogy. We're going to use a couple of them. The first one is, think of the bandwidth like a freeway. All the cars or the data travel at the same speed. So to get more data from the internet to your computer faster, the freeway needs to be wider. Have you ever been on a freeway where one of the lanes is closed, or a couple of the lanes are closed and everybody is end to end? You can't go as fast. But when everybody is side by side, all the lanes are open. Once you get past the point where the accident was, or where somebody's pulled over, everybody, all of a sudden, there's no bottleneck anymore. Everybody's going up to the speed limit or more. In other words, say 1 megabit per second is the equivalent of 1 lane of freeway. And let's say that you were trying to download an image which is 5 megabytes in size. So if you had a bandwidth of 1 megabit per second, 1 lane freeway, it would take you roughly 5 seconds to download the image. Now let's say you have 5 megabits bandwidth connection or a 5 lane freeway. How fast will you receive your image? In about a second. More bandwidth means that you'll receive more data at the same time. In this example, you can download 5 images with the wider bandwidth. In the same time, you could download 1 with the narrower bandwidth. Here's another picture of that same analogy. Bandwidth is like the number of lanes. The network devices are on-ramps, traffic signals, signs, and maps. And packets are like vehicles. In other words, how they're the container in which they're moving. What's important to note here, and this confuses a lot of people, is that your internet isn't any faster from 1 megabit to 5 megabits, or however many, how much your bandwidth connection has. Your data is just transferred to you at a faster rate because more data can be sent at the same time. It's more efficient, making your internet perceptually faster, but not technically faster. Another confusing thing about shopping for internet is when you see speeds listed like this, 5/1 megabits per second. What does this mean? Well, that means the internet plan has a download speed of 5 megabits per second and an upload speed of 1 megabit per second. The reason why your upload and download speed are different is because most internet connections are asymmetric. In English, this means that the bandwidth is a different size going one way compared to the other. Since most users consume content rather than upload it, the bandwidth for download speeds is larger than the upload. And what does affect your internet speed? The connection type. Are you DSL? Are you using an old modem? Are you using cable modem? Are you using fiber optics? Something else that may affect it is your traffic congestion. Is your neighborhood using a lot of bandwidth? Is your house using a lot of bandwidth? Do you have more than one person on the computer in different rooms downloading or uploading data at the same time? What about the wiring? Do you have bad or old wires or connections or equipment, either in your neighborhood, in other words, in your yard, going from the pole to your house, or from wherever the internet is coming through? Is that old? So you may not even know. You may have rewired your house. It may be a new house, but the connections nearby may be old. And then, of course, distance. If you're farther away from the switching center that's sending the signal than someone else, your bandwidth may be less. Also, just consider this. If you're in a household and you've got 3 computers being operated in different rooms at the same time, you only have so much bandwidth, so much pipe coming into your house. If you got 3 people using the internet at the same time, doing similar things, each one is getting about a third of that bandwidth. So if you're paying for 300, the bandwidth of 300 megabits per second, each computer is going to get about a third of that, or about 100. So as you do the speed test for that computer, and the other two computers are also working at the same time, your speed's going to be considerably lower than if no one is on either of the other two computers, or not even on. See how to test your internet speed for help on how to accurately determine how much bandwidth you have available to you. Internet speed test sites are often, but not always, the best way to do that. How much bandwidth you need depends upon what you plan on doing with your internet connection. For the most part, more is better, constrained, of course, by your budget. In general, if you plan on doing nothing but Facebook and an occasional video, watching a low and high speed plan is probably just fine. Depending upon what you're using the internet for, you might be able to get an official bandwidth recommendation so that you know exactly what you'll need to use that service optimally. For example, if your internet runs smoothly right now, but you plan to add a movie streaming service to the mix, do some research on their website for the minimum bandwidth they recommend for interruption-free streaming. If you have a few TV sets that will be streaming, say, Netflix, and more than a few computers, tablets, and other devices that might be doing who knows what, I'd go with as much as you could afford. You won't be sorry if you get extra speed. Again, here's another analogy, is the size of the pipe that the water flows through, or the data flows through. If you have a bigger pipe, you can get more water through there. It's not going any faster, it's just you're getting more of it at a time. So in other words, as the bandwidth increases, so does the amount of data that can flow through a given amount of time. Just like the diameter of the pipe increases, so does the amount of water that can flow through during a period of time. And so, say you're streaming a movie, someone else is playing an online multiplayer video game, a couple of others are on your same network, are downloading files or using their phones to watch online videos. It's likely that everyone will feel that things are a bit sluggish, if not constantly starting and stopping. This has to do with bandwidth. To return to the plumbing analogy, assuming that the water pipe to a home, the bandwidth remains the same size as the home's faucets and showers are turned on, data downloads to the devices, the water pressure at each point, the perceived speed at each device, will reduce, again, because there's only so much water, bandwidth, available to the home, your network. And again, here's another illustration. If you've got a little garden hose and you put your finger in front of it, you've got low bandwidth, you've only got so much water going through it. You got a huge hose and it's wide open, you're going to get a lot of water through there. And here's some more on the pipe analogy with different sizes and so on. Put it another way, bandwidth is a fixed amount based on what you pay for. While one person may be able to stream a high-def video without any lag whatsoever, the moment you begin adding other download requests to the network, each one will get just their portion of the full capacity. The test will give you a specific result of how fast your internet really is operating, measured in megabits per second, or Mbps. Knowing how fast your internet is will give you a good idea of what you can do with it. So here's a chart. If you're just doing some web surfing, email, and no video streaming, you can do probably 2 to 4 megabits per second. As you add more and more things, and you get down to the several high bandwidth apps, high quality video conferencing, you're going to need 20 megabits per second or higher. The actual bandwidth needs may be higher depending upon the number of users and whether you're using shared or dedicated internet access. Now, as far as your internet service provider, who you get internet from, these are just a sample of some of the ones out there. I use Frontier. HughesNet is another, CenturyLink, Windstream, Spectrum, AT&T, Comcast, who are watching this all over the country and Canada. There are different providers that or serve internet and our internet service providers. Here are some places to test your internet speed. The one I use a lot is the one you go to Google and just type in speed test. And when you do, you'll see a little blue box. It says run speed test. When you run it, you'll get your download and your upload speed. I pay for 150 down and 150 up. I'm getting pretty close to that. So I'm probably getting my money's worth. If I do the test again, the download might be a little bit slower. The upload might be a little bit faster. They vary. Depends on what's going on the lines, and the speed can only be as fast as who you're connected to. So if I'm testing to a slower site, the speed itself is going to be slower. Here's another example. This is on a non-Fios or fiber optic, and so the download is always much faster than the upload, and that's because generally you don't require a lot of upload, because all you're doing is sending a request for a page, and then that page coming down is what you need the greatest speed. So to preserve bandwidth, the service providers give you a faster download than they do upload. This is on my service using another testing site called 𝐓𝐼𝐒, and you can see I am getting what I'm paying for. And the ping, or milliseconds, the latency is very low on that one. Now here's an example from an iPad using the LTE, and I'm getting 20 in both directions, but I'm on a slower connection. I'm also using an iPad that only does 2.4 speed. It does not have the 5G. It is 2.4G. Here's another example from another device. It was 10 downloads, 7 upload. So it will depend where you are, what you're using, what equipment you're using, and what the connection is at the site that you're testing it. And here's one that, wow, a 85 millisecond ping and only 15 download and a 1.7 upload. So this isn't one that you would want to stream with. Okay, thanks. If you have any questions, if we have some time, we'll answer them. If not, you can find me at the address that's listed there, either or